Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. For today's video, as both its title and the fact that I'm wearing this shirt may have already revealed, I will once again be looking into the Demon Storm series written by Valerie Storm. This time, more precisely, at the 7th and penultimate book of the series. Let me pick you up and show it to you. The Storm Descends, and another deceptively happy cover. It does, however, reflect the content of the book in a very specific way, namely the fact that at some point during the book, the characters do actually travel by ship. Okay. Some of you might have noticed that I didn't start out this video by reading the synopsis, and that's because the synopsis for this book in particular is something I find a little bit too spoilery to really fit with my general spoiler policy. Not necessarily in terms of this book, but in terms of the books that came before it, which I also have to take into account because I'm assuming, because it is to some extent relevant to the because the events of previous books are to some extent relevant to the story of this one. So, and also you might want to, also if you find this video, you might want to read the rest of this book once you're once you're done with it. Anyway, some of you might think that that the fact that this particular synopsis is a little bit too spoilery is a problem because no synopsis should ever be spoilery. Some of you might think that the fact that it only took up until the second to last book of the series for the synopses to finally become spoilery would be an indictment on the series as a whole. And while I could understand both points, I also have to say that both of them kind of misunderstand what it actually, what the connection between a synopsis and the book it is summing up is actually supposed to be. But you're not here to listen to me, ramble on about synopses. You're here to figure out what my opinion on the quality of this book is, or at least that's what I assume you're here for. And my impressions to that regard, summarized, are this is the worst book of the series so far. It's not tremendously bad. It's not catastrophically bad. It's not very much worse than any of the previous books, but it does subvert, if not outright uproot and destroy, a significant chunk of the narrative potential that this world could have held, which I have to say, I found to be quite disappointing. In spite of that, the central narrative thread, the romance of this YA romantasy, as I think it is fair to label this series, is followed through over the course of this book with the same with the same consistency as it always is. So if you've come to this book series specifically for that, well, then I can safely say that you will that you will enjoy this book as well. Hell, it might even become your favorite in the series. And now that I'm done with my broad impressions, it's time I delved into some specifics. The plot of this book picks up a few months after the ending of the previous book, with the leads once again settling into their or resettling into their adopted community. That soon changes once they receive an invitation or honorary request to establish diplomatic and potentially military ties to a community that is located quite far away. Hence why they travel by ship on the cover. Unbeknownst to them, however, old enemies of theirs re-emerge in order to sabotage that endeavor. And that is not the only thing these old enemies set in motion. Or rather, it is not the only thing the author uses these characters to to insert change. She also uses them to prune off certain plot threads that I think she decided are no longer worth her time. However, she does so in a very blunt and very simplistic manner, and off page too. So it's so so yeah. I very much so this pretty sizable or sizable segment of narrative potential of audience investment has simply been cut off because the author has no concern for it anymore. Not a great thing to do. And that is also compounded by the fact that when the villains of this book, do make their first appearance, the action scene that results from that, from that appearance, relies a little bit too much on fake out deaths in order to, in order to really keep me invested. Because I can't help but I can't help but shake the impression that whatever is about to happen next will actually be revealed to just be an illusion, or someone didn't look right in the right or looked it specifically in the wrong way in the wrong time, and they get these weird impressions. And yeah, I can't I personally can get and I personally found myself getting detached from the story whenever that happened. You can write chaotic action scenes in compelling ways, and in fact, I have praised books for which managed to do so in the past. And this book very much failed to do so. And from its failure, I pretty much became disengaged around the halfway point. So when the book entered its second half, with the exception of a quite extensive action segment, a lot of it was more focused on the a lot of it was more focused on the emotionality of the book, which very much I think plays to the author's strengths, or at least her comfort area. And I appreciate how she is able to how she's able to establish the stakes within that particular field as well, and how she is able to bring back within this book a variety of elements that were established even very early over the course of this series, which I have to say I find to be very rewarding. It doesn't really help the flow of the story, I will admit that much, but it is a good reminder for long-term readers of how far they've come, and of how far the leads of this series have come, and what their and what their dynamic is actually, and what their dynamic and their connections to the rest of the world actually are. And they are a pretty good primer for new audiences as well, people who are just getting into the series. I do appreciate that Valerie is still thinking about how to best integrate new readers, even in the second to last book in the series. Though I do have to find myself wondering who would start start reading this book after I'm going to start reading this book, or who would start reading this book series from from book number 7, or maybe I could understand they not wanting to read the whole series, but why would you start with book 7? Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Characterization is fine, but perhaps a little bit simplistic. There are no character assassinations, thankfully. However, I can't really say that any of the the characters really stand out in particular moments, in a particular manner. I can say that the leads do have some moments where they get to shine, but beyond that, they are the leads or established characters have some moments to shine, but they are otherwise very still not particularly spectacular, but they are still in touch, still represented, in accordance with their own, with their own authentic selves, which I think is an effective presentation, all things considered. When it comes to new characters, they are presented somewhat shallowly, but their interactions with the leads are, do unfold in a naturalistic manner, and I do very much believe that the ways the leads interact with these characters mirror the ways in which people like the leads would interact with people like these side characters. It doesn't really, and that's really my impression of the of a lot of the series as a whole. There aren't a lot of elements that really stand out, but they are well integrated within the within the context that is built up, and that is very much the truth when it comes to when it comes to the way characterization is depicted within this book. When it comes to world building, it's a little bit of a mixed bag because because Valerie both fumbles it and knocks it out of the park. I already mentioned that there is that she calls certain plot threads, and with them the world building development that these plot threads could have had, but she does more or less make up for it by in the way she presents the realm where the previously mentioned extended action segment takes place, which is depicted as very Lovecraftian in the way in the ways it takes familiar elements and twists and turns them into becoming unrecognizable. The attention to detail and the ways in which it is it is depicting these changes is very effective and very engaging to read. It is it is chilling, it is gruesome, and it is terrific. Definitely the high point of this book, and I could argue one of the highlights of the of the series overall. Other aspects are basically as usual, or as would have been expected. So I can't really say anything bad about it, but I can't really say anything. I can't really bring much praise to it either. Overall, while there are elements of this book that I am, excuse me just a moment. Overall, yeah, I had a call because of reasons. Never mind. Back my conclusion. Overall, while I do find myself to be disappointed by some developments within this book, I have to admit, that there are plenty of other aspects to it that do still allow it to, work and that make it an effective and immersive reading experience. So, my final rating for The Storm Descends is a 3 out of 5. I was gonna give it a 2, but then that that back half really picked up the slack, raising its rating to a 3. And yeah, that was my review. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed it, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there is anything you'd like to add, either to the book itself or to my review of it, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe, and ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My books, the first of my own Heir to the Empire series, The Next Generation: A Path Not Taken, are available at various book retailers under their respective master links in the description down below. Right past my social media links, which I suggest you check out should you choose to. And given I have a third book on the way, now might be as good a time as any to really check out the social media, because who knows, I might have updates on that. Aside from that, I also have a second channel where you can hear me talk about whatever crosses my mind, though it'll typically still be related to narrative analyses, but of works outside of the print medium. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and check it out. If, however, you want to hear more about my thoughts on the print medium and selected works therein, well then I suggest you stay on this channel and go through my extensive backlog of book reviews, writing advice, and miscellaneous connected topics. And if none of what I've just said interests you, well then you can go ahead and do whatever you want the rest of your day, because it is your day after all. And yeah, that was it for me. So until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.